Alright, EfilDay video, I think 17. Yeah. So I was reading Fred's book, novel, thing, whatever it is. Anyway, there's a part where he's talking about different cities, fantasy cities and futuristic fantasy cities, sort of, kind of. Not really, though. Well, whatever. Not now. Not here. There. Kind of places. Just the whole imagination of what kind of scenario you can create for which human beings could exist in, sort of centered around the idea that life is, unresolvable in a lot of respects, but some of it is more practical, more suitable to what a regular person might fantasize about, a world where everything's done for them, or a world where life is easy, uncomplicated. So anyway, the point is, there's some value in that. I think it's the best part of his novel, actually. Just exploring what it is that we are about, what makes us go, what moves us, and it is based on this whole. We're basically hungry for something to entertain us, to motivate us, and usually in a positive way, not a negative way. We don't like things that motivate us from a negative perspective, but motivate us from a desire perspective, like a attraction rather than a repulsion, in terms of the forces involved. But we clearly like when repulsive forces are eliminated. And one can argue that the desire mechanism itself is a repulsion of your current circumstances. You don't like being poor. It's not that you want to be rich. It's that you don't like to be poor. Kind of. It's all this relative stuff. You can, we're back to the scale. And where exactly is the zero? I mean, is there a zero? Or is this just a linear scale? And I would argue that it's either on this side or it's on, well, for you, the opposite. It's either the negative or the positive. And that we just make progress in terms of we become less negative or we become more positive, some people would say. And I think it's just rational to draw the obvious conclusion that the negative is the stronger force, that we are placed just by existing, just we are born into it, into a need state that is not a good state, and that we strive to achieve a good state. Cat coughing up something. Anyway, part of the wonders of life. Anyway, so I was just thinking about the how we exist, and what really moves us, and how what the you could ask simple questions like, how many is enough people on Earth? Like, what's the ideal number? How many consciousnesses is the right number of consciousnesses? Just in terms of trying to figure out, like, what is that I really value here. And if I'm to be honest, truly honest, I mean, I can't perceive value in somebody else's existence. I can see value in their welfare, but I can't see value in their existence. I mean, I wouldn't go to the store and pay anything to create a new human being. I mean, if I had to pay to do it, I wouldn't do it. It would just be like, why would I do that? I mean, I don't see any capacity for gain in doing it. I only see value in the fact that, okay, I'm pretty cool. I can think of scenarios for me to live out that would be good, and yeah, I should live out those scenarios. I desire some things, but I don't desire for somebody else to desire. I mean, I have no desire to make somebody else desire. It just doesn't occur to me to do that. It doesn't occur to me to think that that is something that somehow does a good thing. Just on an innate level. I'm not making a philosophical argument about that. I'm just saying that innately, I'm going to buy a bottle of water before I'm going to buy consciousness for somebody else. It just doesn't occur to me to say there needs to be another one. There needs to be another one. That somehow, whoa, that's so cool. That's so cool. I can rub up against it, or I can't do anything with it. I can't. This doesn't in any way satisfy any of the needs I have. It doesn't elevate my condition from negative 45 to negative 43 or 40 or 39. Or if you're going to do the positive thing, it doesn't gain me any doesn't increment me on the scale anywhere in terms of my state of being. And that, is reason for pause right there. You just say, well, what is that about? Why is the idea of this being alive thing, why does it only make sense when it's inside of you? When it's my consciousness, it sort of makes some kind of sense, but it doesn't make any sense at all in somebody else's consciousness. It's like you contemplate history, and you contemplate it in this vague way with these incidences that happened where, okay, people were living this way because they invented this, and, plagues, and, people lived like, the poor people lived down here, and the rich people lived up there, and, you can think of the different scenarios that people lived in, but I don't see any value in their existence. I don't think about how splendid it was that humans were running about like little ants, living out, dirty, smelly, crappy lives. It depresses me when I think about the pain and the suffering they endured, but somehow it doesn't impress me that they had little moments of glory or satisfaction. That they might have had moments of tenderness or something. I mean, I can contemplate it, but I just don't see any really rich value in it. Like, oh, yeah, it was really great that happened. All right, where am I getting to here? So again, I've always talked about, in economic terms, like you try to reduce the distance between production and consumption. And you try to get the consumers as close as possible to the producers. Get rid of all the middlemen, get rid of all the lies, get rid of all the small print. Make it really easy for the wanter to get or the needer to get what they need or want. And they make it clear and straight and, no catches, no bullshit. And in terms of our psychology, what's the parallel for this reducing of the noise space, the bullshit, the nonsense? And I sort of argued that if you had a virtual reality, you would just start pulling weeds. And if you think about it, you'd start. So much of what we exist in is weeds, is unnecessary worry and concerns and rubbish and nonsense, and that what we want is can be percolated down to pretty simple fairy tale-esque notions. That's what fairy tales are, in a sense, I suppose, is just expressions of that simplicity. You just want the vacation kind of life, the simple, I'm not going to say, obviously gluttony came to mind, but that's the wrong word, because it's not about having much, it's just having little need and having it easily gratified, and or having it having a capacity to maintain it in some sense. So to always have nice weather and have enough of a game to keep you interested. But that again, we're back to this game metaphor. That we're playing a big game in terms of our interaction with each other, and there's a game inside of us. That hunger for the entertainment kind of thing. That we're hungry for the competition. We're hungry for the interaction. And so let's say when I was playing video games, it was a kind of, I was a kind of human. I was a kind of human that's playing a video game. And my consciousness was oriented towards this mechanism that was throwing things at me, and I'm throwing my thing. But, I'm interacting with this completely through this little funnel of technology. And life is reduced to just this little visual thing, back and forth interaction, and it was a pretty full life in a sense. It was complete enough. I mean, I'm engaged, my brain is occupied, it's comfortable, it's engaged, it's fully participating as a living thing. It's fantasizing. It's doing lots of things. It's in the game, and in a sense, I've cut that off because I didn't see productivity in it. I just saw the consumption of my lifespan in that entertainment. It had real value as entertainment, but it wasn't enough substance to justify my engagement in it. And so in a sense, I've blown up a universe. I've blown up a world of human consciousness involved in the game. I mean, in a sense, I'm saying that is unnecessary. That is trivial. It's valueless. Even though it was engaging and it satisfied the human, it's like a world of some alien civilization that would be doing that, and I would say, well, that's just totally useless. I mean, yes, they're engaged, they're satisfied, but they might as well be asleep because there's no productivity, there's no use in it. And so I'm just thinking in terms of what am I really valuing in existence, and I'm saying that if you look inside your head, what you're valuing is really just totally owned by what your psychology wants, what you perceive as necessary for a good game. If you perceive that you're losing the game, then you perceive to need a better advantage. You need more bullets, you need more guns, you need more stuff so you can win the game, so you can engage better in the game, so you can play the game more comfortably. We're just trying to get out of, like say the video game had mud in it, and if you did a certain thing right, you got rid of the mud, and now you could walk, and now you could shoot better, and you do all this. So your first objective would be to get rid of the mud, and that's kind of just what we're caught up in. We're not caught up in the philosophical game. We're caught up in this little psychological game, and when we try to mix the two, I think that's where the problem comes in. Is people are talking about their unresolved need, and they're not talking about whether the need means anything or whether the game means anything, whether it is just some state of being that you could eliminate from existence and realize no sadness, no sense of grief or mourning because it's gone, because you don't give it any value. I mean, I could fairly easily take if we had the power to do it, and I could just take a pencil with an eraser on it and just erase decades, centuries of history. I wouldn't mind erasing it. I mean, I wouldn't feel any horror that, oh, I just erased all the good and all the bad. Just got rid of it all. Just erased it. It's okay. I don't see a problem there. I can't manifest a thought in my head that says somehow there's a problem there, because they're not me. I mean, and on balance, I can't see how I don't win because I get rid of all that pain and suffering. And the only thing I'm losing is people caught up in a silly routine anyway, playing a silly game. So I get rid of all the suffering, and the only thing lost is playing video games. Just as I could easily erase from my own existence the time I spent playing video games, I could just erase it, because I didn't lose anything. It was just a waste anyway. It was just an occupied consciousness playing a game. All right. Yeah, so it is a little difficult to put this into coherent words spontaneously. It's a little complex of concept. But I also had the thought. I mean, it just occurred to me. It just rolled into my realization. The scenario of, like, say, at the dying moment, if everybody had a button when they're dying, and they all died in a conscious state, where they're fully conscious as they're ticking down the last seconds of their existence, and they're not in some deluded state or some half-consciousness or some bullshit. And they had a button in their hand, and they just press the button, and it just means it all goes away. When they die, they don't just die, it just all just goes, everything poofs, okay, all of it. All history, all present, all future, everything just stops. I wonder how many people would press it, just because of this idea that, they this realization that they can see it, that there isn't anything about the future that I need it to be. I can only need it to be as if I've somehow invested in it, as if I've somehow put people in it, that somehow now they are some sort of extension of me. So through some sort of nepotism, where all of a sudden it's my child, I could maybe manifest that. But that's purely psychology then. I mean, that's just like racism or anything else. Nepotism is just irrational psychology. It doesn't. There's nothing rational in nepotism. Unless you really think you have superior genes than everybody else. And then you could be called an asshole or an idiot, a delusional fuckwit. And you'd certainly have to prove that by some other standard. Egomaniacal comes to mind, if you could actually think that the world needs your genetics, because you're just so cool. But anyway, I mean, I'm vain, but you'd have to be a fucktard. To think that. I mean, I mean, it doesn't. This my child thing is just it's a completely irrational notion. The thing is a child. It doesn't matter whether it's yours or not. It's like a cat is a cat. It doesn't matter whether it's your cat or not. I mean, it matters in the sense that you've now assigned yourself responsible for something, but it doesn't matter in terms of cat. It's like the other cats aren't invisible cats. They're not mechanical cats. They're not fake cats. They're not lesser cats than your stupid cat. But yeah, that also isn't intuitive to human beings. Again, we're back to what I'm trying to get to, is that we perceive things from our perspective, from inside of us, as being important and valuable, by a different kind of perception than we see things in the real world when we're looking at them and analyzing them sensibly. So we have a sensible capacity, and we have this insensible capacity of personal perception, of personal interaction. That's really different. It's very different. And what we would do, if really, if people could be really tested, I wonder if their behavior would match their rhetoric. I do. So anyway, I don't want to just drag this out because it is a little bit incoherent anyway in how I'm presenting it, which is disappointing. But I have more shots at this target, so I'll take them. But there's just this idea that your psychology is one little node of psychology. It's one little mechanism of desire. It places these values on things because you're kind of competitive by nature. You're interacting with the game. You're trying to do it really efficiently. You're trying to walk the tightrope. I mean, these are good, I think, analogies for what we do in life. That we're just trying to walk the tightrope, and we just don't want anything to knock our balance off or disturb our world. And that is our intuitive sense. We're just caught up in playing the game. And when we take ourselves out of the game a little bit through philosophy, take ourselves out of our psychology a little bit and analyze what we're seeing, watching it in other people, and analyzing what they're doing, and then recognizing that we're doing the same thing, that we can then see how it is kind of made out of just garbage. It's just all this little bits of nonsense, and that there is no such thing as elevating a state and doing all of this stuff. All this playing of that game is just futile. That all you're really doing is just entertaining a psychology, and you can do it the hard way or you can do it the simple way. And the simplest way is not to create the psychology in the first place. Just don't bother trying to find a stupid video game to play to absorb your consciousness, to gain you satisfaction, so you can just play a game. I mean, it's all just playing a game. There's no way to turn it into something else. It's just a psychology in need of satisfaction. We're made to walk tightropes. There's nobody to watch us walk the tightrope in reality. That's just an illusion of your ego saying, well, they're all watching me. That somehow, I'm, by human standards, am I a cool human? Well, we all kind of know that once you're dead, that's going to be meaningless. That doesn't add up to anything. That has no substance or value. You could have 900 gold medals on the wall. They don't mean anything. It's just crap. It's just stuff that fed your ego while you're playing the game. It's just not real. It's crap. And it's just an entertained psychology. That's all this is. It's just entertaining the needs contrived by a psychology. It is just as simple as, all our psychology is essentially as simple as the hunger mechanism. You know, yes, we need to eat because we need food to feed the body, right? So food is made desirable, so we'll eat it, so we'll feed the body. So at least hunger, that hunger has some sort of rational purpose that you can define inside your head. Okay, I can see the purpose of that. Because it maintains the body, and that's if you're some sort of Darwinian DNA molecule lover or something. So I'm thinking it's purpose in just surviving. Well, yeah, that has purpose then because you survive. But all this other psychology is just a bunch of perverted, distorted, and screwed up psychology, and it's all built out of the need to create the necessity of the relationships that create the reproduction, and then the mechanisms of social order that created the gang that made us stronger because we lived in a gang. And these are all the psychologies that are motivating you and moving you, and they're all contrivances. They're all contrivances that create a sense of value, a sense of importance, a sense of, this is the game I should be playing, this is the tightrope I should be walking. And it's just stupid. There's nothing to found it. There's no basis for it. It's a performance for no witnesses. It's a play for no audience. And it's just so crudely at its core. It's just this molecule creating the necessity for these things. There's no real necessity. The only necessity is the replication of a molecule. That's the origin of all of it, and there's no rational theory. There's only subjective theory. You can only make sense out of it subjectively. You cannot make sense out of it rationally, and that should give people reason to say, wait a minute, yeah, I got to think about that. You really have to think about that. The fact that your life has no rational, logical function should disturb you a bit. Okay, enough of it. Thank you very much.